far as open land is going to be. It's important, so I thank you both.
Speaking of the fireworks, that's another thing. I did, one thing, although I tried to get more out of Mr. Di Pasquale, he did say that he will continue to support the fireworks as he has the last 2 years. So, I think that's about all I can get out of him. But,
You never know.
Can I make a comment? Can we,
Yep.
is it appropriate? So, we've been talking about this now since August, really. We've been talking about this and going through drafts and drafts. It's a little odd that until tonight, this is the first time we're hearing about the concession stand. And I know you haven't been here, John, the person I talk about it, but nowhere has Mr. Di Pasquale brought up about committing all this extra money. In his own development agreement draft, it only says $192,000.
But that's because nobody asked. You don't ask. You don't get if you don't ask. You don't get if you don't ask.
I understand. I didn't cut you off.
No, just
With
telling you.
respect. It just is a little odd, and I am 100% supportive of taking money from solar and putting it towards open space and allocating it towards senior services and fixing our roads and our other infrastructure. I find it odd that we didn't think of that in the original plan as we were talking about solar to allocate some of that money, because you are clearing away 200 acres for the purchase of 150 acres, or 200 plus acres for the purchase of 150 acres. You're losing land in the deal. I just caution that we do our due diligence, and that while it is admirable for the concession stand, I'd rather still see us explore other ways. I 100% support a concession stand. I think they are important. When I was in high school, we had booster clubs that funded those things, and I get it. But sometimes when a deal sounds too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true, and that's all I'm going to say.
Well, on that note, I'm a little surprised that you didn't try to get a little more, to be honest with you. Okay, somebody who's just a regular citizen of the town shouldn't have been the one to go up there and try to get more out of them. All right, but I did, and I did that for the benefit of the town.
If I may, Mr. President, an overabundance of caution on my part not to enter into a roving meeting or outside of the council meeting. Mr. Beauregard's got me apprised of this for months now with the negotiations, and I just did not want to do it to come out in public until it's the appropriate time. So you can probably blame me for not bringing it up. I just did not want to bring it up because I did not want to have an Open Meetings Act violation speaking to other council members unless it was on the agenda. If it were on the agenda, I think it just negated any negotiations or bargaining power that we may have had. So Mr. Beauregard's been behind the scenes working this for a few months now. Thank you, John.
So, is that, this whole thing sounds really fishy. The more and more I'm hearing it, like, there's backdoor communication, there's, like, it's not, it's what it just sounds like, though. So that's why I'm just cautioning us to do our due diligence. And yeah, you may say I could have gone out and gotten more from Mr. Di Pasquale. I don't know him. I'm still fairly new to this. Anyone, you could have made that argument about anyone up here. It could have been asked, why didn't you, when you were on the council, ask for more money out of Mr. Di Pasquale up front?
I did.
So we're still in negotiations with this process, and this process isn't finalized. And so if there were going to be stipulations added, I would want it clear cut as to where that money was going so that it couldn't be changed later on. So, all I'm saying.
All good? Thanks.
Oh,
Tony Gurdon, 8 Country Way. I have no idea what's odd about a citizen who lives in this town, who cares about this town, trying to do something good for this town. I have no idea what's odd about that, and I can't believe that someone who sits on the council thinks that's odd. I think it's admirable, personally. So I want to applaud the council for working towards a tax stabilization agreement or a treaty or whatever direction you're going to go in. I know that the council in the past has looked at revenue, and if you think about the National Grid revenue that came in years ago, and how millions of dollars didn't go towards value adds for the town. But what they did do is help prevent tax increases. And now we have, in this fiscal year, where the budget is adversely affected, by the depreciation of those assets. So when you think about the direction you're going in with the tax stabilization agreement or treaty, I applaud you, because we don't want to revisit the same mistakes we made in the past. I also want to applaud Mr. Beauregard. I think it's a brilliant effort on his part to try to do something good for the town of North Smithfield. And to think there's a backdoor deal and to put a negative connotation to it is just insulting. As you know, I've been a big proponent of the concession stands and bathrooms for a long time, and I speak from experience. Especially now that we're looking at improving this asset with no expense to town taxpayers. We're going to increase the value of the facility behind us for school children, for NS-based associations, including Express Football, including the Soccer Association, including NS Hoops, for residents of the town who regularly exercise at that facility, for our senior citizens, who I believe could get a lot more value out of it if we did have facilities there, and also for tenants. People, we have to compete with other towns, and we have tenants who pay to use that field, and that brings in revenue. And you know what? We have to compete with what other towns are doing as well. So, and I think especially I want to focus on what it could do for our seniors and programs that could be run there for them.
I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
The topic of the public hearing is the tax stabilization agreement. Not what we're going to do with any, the discussion is the tax stabilization agreement. I'm trying to keep us on tack with this.
I appreciate that, so I'll be brief. So, all right, well, I won't get into all there are numerous potential benefits to what this could do for us and do for the school department and do for the entire town. So I believe I serve on 2 commissions here in town, Parks and Rec Commission and the Veterans Memorial Stadium Committee, and I believe that the members of both those committees would support this. I'll ask them to, going forward. And, you know, these meetings, sometimes 2 hours long or so, and that's how long an athletic event is up at those fields quite often. So think about sitting in here right now and having to use a portage on if you have to go to the bathroom. Because that's what happens up there. Thank you.
Sales Hill Road. Mr. Vadney, I appreciate what you're saying. This is about a tax stabilization, so I just want to confirm, I want to be very brief, what Mr. Beauregard said, that when the Gold Forest was available and we were concerned about how it was going to be paid for, there was conversation between Mr. Beauregard, Conservation Commission, and Mr. Zelensky, that this overlay district would create the solar farm in the overlay district would bring in some revenue to go to purchase the gold property. I want you to know that the Conservation Commission has been, and still is, opposed to clear-cutting forests for solar arrays. However, we're stuck with it. The council voted for it, and to make the best of it, I just want to say that the Conservation Commission, on the record, would like for the revenue from the Ferra solar array to go toward the purchase of open space. Thank you.
A clarification, Mr. President. I think we keep hearing this, it's called project, referred to as the solar, as the Ferra. It is more than Ferra, it's the overlay zone. I just want to make sure everybody knows that it's not just going to be Ferra's property.
Hey, Mr. President.
Good.
Members of the council. Nice to see you. I'm here as a private citizen. I just wanted to say, in regards to the TSA, I would support the decision of this committee, or this council. You're putting the time in. and I trust your decision. I want to thank, I know that you want me to be brief on this, but I want to thank Mr. Beauregard for bringing that idea forward, and Mr. Gurdon. And again, I just want to say I fully support considering the idea of the concession stands and bathrooms. Thank you.
Let everyone go first before we have repeats. It's not a debate or
Tom McGee, 125 Plat Road. I'm here tonight listening to everything, just trying to be a little involved because I've taken a little time off. And I heard about of course, the concession stands. I'm going to be brief on that. We definitely need them. We definitely can't seem to get them done. There's never been any money. And do I think it's a good way? I'm not a real lover of the solar thing. I wasn't really a big in favor of it at all. But if it's going to go down and they're going to build a concession stand, that would be great. But I'm not going to let someone just build what they want to build. I would like to see if that happened, if you guys choose to do that, which I think is a great idea, and if you can get more for your buck. Like if this thing costs $375, you said, Mr. Gurdon? Well, I'd like to see some numbers like what it really is and what we're really building, because we just can't take numbers out of the air and say $375. I'd like to see specs of this thing, how much it would cost us, and if it truly would cost us $375 and he could do it for $275, whatever, that's a great savings. And we got more for our money. That's great. But I also would like to see plans. I'd like to see costs. And I'd like to see the Building Oversight Committee involved in it so we get what we, I could put one up for 50 grand. So you could build it for 50 or you could build it for 400. You got to make sure everybody likes what we build. We get something we like. But don't be afraid because someone's gonna, build something for more money. He can build stuff for less than we could build it for. So that's where the difference may be. But it's definitely worth looking into. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul, Mr. President, can I make a quick clarifying comment? So, I just want to clarify some comments. I never said an individual helping out was odd. I just want to go on the record and say that. What I did say was that it is odd that in the 11th hour, as we're at the public hearing, we are finding out that there was more communication that this council was not aware of was taking place. And how can the council make an informed decision not knowing what else might be going on behind closed doors and what else might be hiding in the background of this deal without us fully knowing it? And that this council, I think, has an obligation first to the town to ensure that we're doing enough due diligence that 25 years from now, we are not saying, well, we approved the project because we really needed the concession stand at the time, but yet, here we are now out millions of dollars and have more issues on our hands. That's all I was saying. I applaud anybody that's taken the time to roll up their sleeves and step up and do public service. It is a tough act, but I would never say that somebody was odd for helping out. I just want the town to do enough homework so it gets the best deal possible. And I've been adamant with that if you watch any of the YouTube videos or anything all along with this project.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Nobody new? The wrap.
Mike Rapko, 25 Old Greenville Road. I agree with Mr. Ossier. We have to stick to the facts tonight. We have to decide tax stabilization. You have to look at what's going to agree upon before you decide how to spend the money. I think we're jumping way ahead. So the issue tonight is, what's the size of this project? When I counted up the 9 pieces, I came up to 44.5. Is it 44.5? Is it 39? Is it 50? Let's decide tonight, what is the number, what's the size of this project? So at least you have a number and you multiply it by 7,000 per megawatt. And at least that's what you're talking about for money. The other thing is the land value. Is the town ready to make a commitment to increase the value of the land? I know if this is open space, and you start putting stuff on that open space, it's not open space by state law anymore, so it has to go back to a minimum of residential. But the next question is, are we ready to investigate, can we bring it to the next level for commercial, to investigate that possibility for additional revenue? And then we're going to worry about the decommissioning value, whether we want to take salvage into it. But I think we've got to focus on the issues, the revenue, and the liability to the town before we decide on how to spend the money. And maybe that's what we should be doing for the rest of this meeting, focusing on what's going to come in, what's our liability, and what do we have to do to go forward to generate as much revenue as we can and reduce our liability. Thank you.
I'd like the same question answered that Mr. Rapko just brought up. I did not count up the megawatts on each of those 9 agreements, but 2 other people did, and they said it exceeds 40, which goes back to my first statement. Why, if that's exceeding 40, why is this not going to the Energy Siting Committee? Because Mike counted 44, and another party I know said it was over 40 as well. And I forgot, to be honest, to take the time to look at each of those 9 agreements and see the megawatts in each one and add it out. So has anybody actually used those 9 agreements and added it up?
I came up with 38.4.
Well, you had your hand up. Did you come up with the same number?
With the verbal agreement itself, it came up to 30, the proposed agreement, 38.4. Now, I don't know if I should pose this question now or wait till later. I think I'll pose it now.
Terry, when you said you came up with 38, that's
So-
why you looked at each of the 9 agreements?
So I went through it. So the first one is 4.05. The second is 5.85. The third is 2.10. Fourth, 6.60. Fifth, 2.70. Sixth, 3.45. Seventh, 4.20. 8, 6.30, and then 9, 3.15.
And you came up with what?
38.4.
All right, if we look at the, I'm going to go back to the numbers because what Mr. Bjerregaard said about the 195,000, I did omit that when I was speaking because the one-time bonus was supposed to be 287,500. And now it's down to 195,000 based on a smaller project, and they didn't use the 38. So I'm going to reiterate, not only do I expect and hope that you negotiate for the full $10 million as was promised or dangled in front of us when this proposal came forward for the payments over the 25-year period. I hope you end up with an instrument that gives us that $10 million revenue over 20 years. I also hope that you end up with whatever that one-time bonus is, it's equal to 287,000, just as it was flaunted to us when everybody bought into this thing. So, and I guess I'm a little confused too, because it sounded like, I thought what we were reviewing tonight was the proposed language that was submitted by Mr. DePasquale and the developer to the town. Is that what we're supposed to be discussing tonight? This isn't what the town council has agreed to or wants to agree to. This is before you make any changes and have input into it. Is that was I misinformed?
We've discussed this over 3 meetings. This is actually the 4th meeting that this is on our agenda for a public hearing. You understand that's part of the process,
right? Is the
public hearing before we can enter into a tax stabilization.
Right.
We've discussed this. We've come to agreement, or we've come, I guess agreement would be the right term. After 3 meetings, nobody wanted to make any changes to the proposed language that Green Development submitted to us for the tax stabilization agreement. There were no changes that were asked to be made at the last meeting. So we called for a public hearing to get town's input as required by law. After hearing town input, we'll go back and make any
Right.
changes,
Right.
further changes,
Okay.
any further negotiations that we want to finalize an agreement that we agree to.
Okay, that's what I understood was supposed to
We
be.
can't make any final agreement until we have a public
Okay,
hearing.
great, because I mean, it sounded like people were saying you didn't do your due diligence and come up with something. I think you're still in the process of doing
negotiating.
that.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct, Mr.
All right.
Wood.
All right, and the other item is for the decommissioning costs. I'm not so worried about the, whether we're going to get 195,000 or a concession stand at the football field, as I am, because for the decommissioning costs, because when you do multiply $30,000 times 40 megawatts, it's $1.2 million that we should be getting to put in that escrow account. And we're being offered $200,000. So please, let's not sell us the town out short just so we can get a concession stand for a couple of $100,000 when we're really looking to put, I hope, in escrow, 1.2 million for the decommissioning, because I think that probably is even going to be low, because I've seen decommissioning costs anywhere from 7,000 per megawatt to 70,000 per megawatt. I think I was hoping the planner was here because I saw he had that list at one point in time, and I think the highest number was 70,000. So 30 seems to be an average, but there's no telling what that cost is going to be. So just thank you for clarifying that you are going to be hopefully making changes before you vote on this thing.
Anyone else? Nobody else?
Yes, I'm sorry.
At this point, I'll close the public hearing.
If there's no other comments. Motion to close public hearing, Mr. President.
Motion by Mrs. Zelinski to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. O'Hara. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mrs. Bartoli? Yes. Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.